Today I'm going to give you a tour of my whole garden, all of the things that I'm growing at the moment, including over 50 fruit trees that I now have on my small urban property, which is about 720 square meters. So I have a few different style gardens, and this one here, this is my food forest style garden, which is really low maintenance. I don't have to do much to it anymore. It's pretty established and it's got a whole bunch of different layers. So let's take a look at what I've got growing out here in the backyard. This is the shadiest corner of my garden. It's underneath a huge Norfolk pine. So things don't grow that well here, but it is a good space to have my worm farm to keep them nice and cool. So these are my worms, and this is one of the things that I use as a natural fertilizer to feed the rest of my gardens. So we've got worm farm, I've got a compost bin. Growing along this fence here, I have a yellow passion fruit. So this is the yellow Panama, and there is a couple hanging on there. The caterpillars have stripped it, so it's looking a little bit bare. We also have some sweet potato that is growing up vertically as well, because you can do that. And the bottom layer, the edible ground cover, we've got sweet potato. We've also got like lots of nasturtiums down here. There's some little sweet violets as well under there. We've got the hibiscus. We've got the red scented lime, which is looking a little bit sad since the grasshoppers ate it, but it's coming back. It's got new growth on it. Then we have snails, also plenty of these around. So in my middle layer I have canna, which is an edible root crop. It actually is a substitute for potatoes, and that produces lots of leafy greens as well, which I can use as chop and drop to then feed the garden. Then this big one here, this is the strawberry guava, and it produces a whole lot of fruit. It's, you know, one of the most abundant fruit trees in my garden. It's also really hardy, and like you don't have to do anything. Because it grows so well, it's considered a pest in quite a few places, so that's something to look out for. And then underneath we have nasturtiums and also sweet potato that pops up in the summer, nasturtiums in the winter. So those two just work well together and I don't have to do anything, they just regrow on their own. Then we have my white mulberry. So the white mulberry tastes quite different to the red mulberry. They taste like honey. It is very prolifically growing, so I do have to cut this back twice a year, so it takes a bit more maintenance than some of the other fruit trees, but it has been a really good pioneer plant, which means that it grows quickly. It can establish shade cover and protect the rest of my garden whilst I'm establishing it. So it may not live here forever. Can be a humongous tree, so it's safe for now, but yeah, this one could get edited out. And then down here I've got some fennel. This one down here is the false cardamom. So it's a really fragrant low shrub, and it smells really tropical. So it's great for using in cocktails or flavouring rice and curries and meals as well. And then this one here, this is my Hawaiian guava, and it's shooting off all new growth. I got heaps of fruit off it last season, and the thing that I loved about this the most is that it held fruit for a really long time. I was getting guavas fruiting for about 4 or 5 months, so that was something really great. And then down here you can see these plastic bags. This is an experiment, so these branches I was going to prune off, but before pruning them off, I've decided to experiment with some air layering. So that's where I basically cut part of the branch, and I'm going to try and promote root growth so that I can get a cutting whilst it's still being fed by the main plant. So we'll see. I do love an experiment. And then along from the Hawaiian guava, we've got the pomegranate, which I transplanted out here recently. This was where my elderflower was. Now, if you have a small backyard, I would highly suggest not planting an elderberry or an elderflower in the garden. It's something that I wish I hadn't done. It sends out runners and it pops up. So I'm still pulling out that plant all along here. So if you do have a small backyard, then I would definitely plant it in a pot or in a container garden, similar to like mint. It does send out runners and new plants. Then we have a banana. This is a dwarf Cavendish banana. Haven't had any bananas on it. We get a lot of wind here, so bananas don't really like it too much. And then this one here, this is one of my pride and joys. This is the feijoa or pineapple guava. So the pineapple guava is what they call it here in Australia, but coming from New Zealand, we had these growing in nearly every backyard, and that's why I love it. It's very nostalgic for me, and they are heavy producers. I'm starting to now get so much fruit off these. So this one was a little bit quiet last season, and I am finding that they are producing sort of on and off years. So one year really productive, the other year a little bit slower. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes again this year, because this big one over here was the most productive last season. So you'll see if it's going to be just as productive this season, and it is setting flowers now. So they flower in spring and the fruit is ready in autumn. And in the corner here we have my lemon tree. This is the one that was here when I bought the property. So this is the one that I haven't planted out of all of the 50 or 60 fruit trees I now have. That is one I did not plant. And that's really productive as well. It fruits pretty much all year round, consistent lemons. I have some lavender planted here, which also flowers in spring, which is at the same time as my feijoas, so it works out really well. It attracts the bees and I get more pollination. This part of the garden is the hottest, so in summer it bakes. And again, I've transplanted some of the Queensland arrowroot. Here I've just been repopulating it through my garden. We've got some cornflowers, some calendula, and then this is my kumquat, which is another heavy producer. It's very prolific. You could get a whole lot of fruit on a really small plant, so if you wanted to grow that in a pot, I think that would be a really, really good one. It's sending out all new growth now. I need to get rid of the rest of the fruit that it's on there to allow it to put its energy into the new growth. And then got some society garlic, and then we have passion fruit, which is growing along the fence. All of the cuttings and mulchings and anything that I take from this garden goes back into it on the ground as mulch to feed and nourish the trees. So I try and keep everything here in the system. But let's go take a look at my pallet planters on wheels. This is my kitchen garden, and also where I'm hiding a lot of my extra fruit trees. So this is my kitchen garden, and this is probably one of the first gardens that I established when I got here, and they're made from pallets, and we've put wheels on them so I can move them in and out of the shade and the sun, because in summer this place cooks. It's so hot being so close to the fence, and it gets full sun, which is great in winter, but in summer I do move them into the shade. So having them on wheels has been amazing. And this is where I grow a lot of my quick growing crops, my kitchen garden, my lettuce, leafy greens, herbs, things like that I can just grab from the kitchen and harvest. But it's also become a little bit of a nursery with some of my fruit trees before they go out into the garden, as well as potting station and where I do a lot of my cuttings and things like that. So first up we have, this is a Satsuma plum. We've got Cape gooseberry, some strawberries that I need to find homes for. These were some bulbs that I was given, so I'm just, trying those out for some cut flowers. That would probably be a really good space for some strawberries if I had time to put them in there. This is a triple grafted apple tree that I picked up on Marketplace, and I've rehomed it. So yeah, bit of an experiment. We'll see how this comes out. I mainly wanted it as a pollinator for my special apple tree that we'll see further down there. That's a really exciting one, and it needed a cross pollination, so having 3 varieties is hopefully going to do the trick. Alright, so I'm not going to go through all of everything that I've got growing in these gardens. We'll be here all day, but we've got celery, spinach, kale, some brassicas. A lot of my winter veggies gone to seed and to flower because we've had such a hot spring and really a hot winter. It hasn't been very cold, so the bees are loving that. I've also got lemon balm popping up in here. This weird thing here is a climbing spinach. This is the Malabar spinach, so that's going to provide lots of shade in summer as well for this garden. And I try to have vertical growing spaces on all of these gardens. It just maximizes the amount of things I can grow in a small space. So some of this will transition. I'll probably pop in some cherry tomatoes and some summer crops soon, but for now there's plenty of food in there. This one's looking a little bit bare now. I have removed some of the things from this. We've got a chili. This is my in-ground worm compost bin, so I can just easily chuck in scraps and things from the kitchen in there, or when I'm tidying up the garden beds. We've got kale, lettuce, flowers, spinach. This is a radish that's gone to flower, and you may notice some of these little bags. I'm doing a little bit of an experiment where I'm doing some cross-pollination to try and come up with my own radish variety, because I love growing radish. All right, so these ones down here are some of my temporary fruit trees that will find homes eventually. I did pick up quite a few of these. I got a real bargain price on some fruit trees, so some of them I didn't know what they were. I'm actually really suspicious that this is a root stock, so I'm hoping that it's going to flower. Well, it is flowering. Hoping I'm going to get some fruit off it to see what it is. It may end up being something that I graft onto. And then this is my tea garden. I've got lemon, verbena, mint, everything like that. And then this one here, we've got a satsuma plum. This is a peach. This is the Fragar peach, which is a white-fleshed peach. Another satsuma plum. So I got these at a really discounted price. Like, I think it ended up working out to be about $10 a tree. So what my plan is I'm going to create one master tree. So I'm grafting these different varieties onto this one tree so that I can have them all on one tree. And when I know that they have successfully worked and the grafts have worked, then I can sell these ones or rehome the ones that I don't need anymore. So probably won't keep all of them, but have just this one fruit salad tree. And I've now grafted 3 things onto it. So I've got the satsuma, the Santa Rosa, the amber jewel, and those 3 grafts have worked. They've been successful. So I'm really happy about that, because I am still very new to grafting. I'm learning as I go. But having things like this where I can experiment with is the best way to learn. And the actual master tree, the host tree if you will, is a plum cot. So that's a cross between an apricot and a plum. So yeah, I'm really interested. It's got lots of flowers, and hopefully some of these will set fruit so I can see how it all works out. And it's in a pot now, but eventually this one will make it into the garden once I've finished playing around with it. Watching out for these bees. It is humming with bees. This is a sprouting broccoli that has gone to flower. This one is my apricot. So this one is a few years old now, and it's got some fruit on it. So I am going to let a few of them go, just do their thing. It's a dwarf apricot, the Bolida, I think it's called. And I've just got this little bag on it so I can protect some of the fruit from fruit fly and things. I may need to get another couple bags for these 2 on here. Again, lots of just random greens and celery and stuff. This one is my asparagus bed. So this is asparagus ferns, and I cut them all back at the end of winter, and they just reshot so quickly because we've had such warm weather. So I need to tidy this up. They're sort of everywhere. And this one here, this is my special apple. So I'm really excited about this one. This is a red fleshed apple. So it's red inside, and that's why I needed to have a cross-pollinator. And then down here I have got some figs. So I've started a little bit of a fig collection, and let's see what we've got. I've got the tiger stripe, the Panache. I don't know how to say that. It's the tiger stripe one. This one is unknown at this point. I got this for $10 because it lost the label, and I love a mystery, so we'll have to see if we can get that identified from the fruit and the leaves. This one is the Black Adam. What little random cuttings that I've been gifted, so again, those are unknown. This one is the Williams, which is a green fig. They're all going to be fruiting at different times. So I've got the Williams is a mid-season, the Black Adam is a late season, and I have a feeling that those ones over there will be early season, but we'll see how that goes. But that's just going to extend the fruiting period, so I get fruit for a longer period if I do have early, mid and late season fruiting figs. And the same with all the fruit trees, you can do that. This sad little section over here is my tropical fruit trees. So I've got the Rollinia, soursop, starfruit, star gooseberry, and they hate winter. I didn't really look after them well enough, but they are shooting off new growth, so fingers crossed they come back to life. I know they do lose their leaves quite a bit in winter. Here is my finger lime. So this is a pink finger lime. Has got a few flowers on it and lots of new growth, so fingers crossed I get some fruit out of that. And then over here, this is like my potting station, so I've got lots of things growing from cuttings. I've got goji berries, I've got some fig cuttings that I've done under here, and some avocados that I'm growing from seed so that I can practice my grafting on avocados, and some of the elderflowers, because I did take that elderflower tree out, but I've got some growing in pots, so I always do that. I try and like do cuttings and stuff before I remove anything, and also learning to do cuttings is going to really help you expand, because you don't have to continuously buy things. You can propagate. It's one of the best things to start learning how to do. And in the corner here, you can't really see it, but in the corner here I've got another passion fruit that is in a pot that I'm hoping to get growing up here. This is my compost bin, and I try and have a compost bin close to every garden bed so that I can just easily chuck compost in. I don't have to traipse it around the place. This is my my rainwater collection. So I have like random trays and pots and stuff collecting rainwater, and then I pop it in this bin here for now. Eventually I'd love to have more of a rainwater collection, but for now I just have this bin here, and I use this mainly on my seeds and my seedlings because rainwater is so much better for them than the town water that has chlorine and stuff in it. But let's go take a look out the front. All right, so welcome to my front yard. This spot right here, this patch of grass, is going to be my next part of my project, so make sure you stick around to the end, because I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek about what is happening here in this grassy patch. But let's take a look at what's growing out here in the front, even though it's going to start raining. So these fruit trees here, we've got a dwarf lime, a feijoa. This feijoa I only just planted this year, so it's young, but this is a named variety. So this is the Nazi Metz, I think it's, I'm not good at pronouncing, but anyway, Nazi Metz variety, which is a named variety. We've got my blood orange, which had the best blood oranges this season. And these little bags you can see on here, this is just me doing some exclusion pollinating to see if I can do something weird. And down below I do have lots of random things planted, so kale and edible flowers, some Queensland arrowroot that I propagated out here. I'm trying to make this more like a food forest style garden like I have out the back, because I've found the more I plant, the better it is, the more protected it is in summer. And I do a lot of chop and drop. So a lot of this I'm not actually eating, like the kale, I'm mainly just picking off and breaking it up and using it to mulch the garden. So we've got the blood orange, which produced beautiful blood red oranges this year, the first time they've actually been red inside, so that was exciting. We've got this guava here, so this is a big green guava, so I haven't had any fruit yet, it is pretty new. The mandarin, I'm not a big mandarin fan really, and the fruit fly love it, so it could be on its way out. I may have to rehome this one. But I'm at that point now where I'm running out of space, and I really want to make sure that everything that I am growing I love. So I'm sort of transitioning, I guess, from establishing into refining and editing, which is kind of exciting, but it's all right for now, it'll stay there. This is another feijoa, so this is another named variety, and it has 2 varieties on one. So it's a double grafted feijoa that I did at one of the grafting classes last year. So I'm really excited about this one. I've got the Duffy with a white goose grafted on top. and then more kale and herbs and flowers and lots of stuff in between. This one on the end here, this is my lemonade, and it produces so much fruit, like basically from the get-go has been super productive. I haven't had to wait for it, so I love the lemonade. You eat it just like an orange, but it's lemon flavored, so it's sweet and a little bit sour and all the things, and more herbs. There's a little fig on the end that I put in there as a cutting, so we'll see how that goes. And then these are my raised garden beds, and they've been getting a lot of airtime lately because I have been doing quite a few projects here. So let's take a quick look at what's growing and what's been happening with my raised veggie patch. So as you can see, it's just growing wild. There's so much flowering at the moment because we've had that warm weather. So this one is a rocket gone to flower. This one is like, they were all Romanesco, and now it sort of looks like a purple sprouting broccoli, so that's interesting. Still tasting really good. Yeah, everything's sort of finishing up in here. We've got rainbow chard, you know, the Romanescos that have all gone to flower now, radishes that have gone to flower and seed. So I am letting some of these go to seed so I can save the seeds. I let a lot of them go to seeds in situation as well, because that means that I don't have to even save the seeds. They just lay dormant in the ground, just like the lettuces have over here. So check these out. This is pretty amazing. I'm obsessed with this, and I've been eating so much of this lettuce. So look at this. This is all self-seeded lettuce. I planted absolutely none of this lettuce. I had one lettuce growing in here at the end of summer, and it went to flower and seed, and then they just all popped up in autumn and winter, and I've just been eating heaps of this, just harvesting off the sides here. They are going to go to flower soon, so I need to eat as much as I can before they go bitter. But again, I'm going to let some go to seed and flower. I just grabbed some of the seeds and sprinkled them in other garden beds, so I have lettuces growing everywhere, and I love that. These are my Egyptian walking onions. I've got thyme, parsley, radishes, edible flowers, pineapple, sage, which is my absolute favorite, and I'm so happy I've finally kept it alive. I've got 2 plants. I don't know, for some reason I just kept killing it, so I'm really happy that it's alive. It's so fragrant. Oh, I just love it. And then down here we have my grapes. So I just planted these, so you can check that out. They are going to grow up this structure to give me shade in summer when I need it the most. I've got 2 varieties there. And then over here I've got the choco. So that's again going to climb up the structure here. The bottle gourd, which we planted, and yeah, more things going to flower, seed. Once you start growing food, you do not need to buy as many seeds. Like, I have so much seeds now in this garden that you know, one single radish produces hundreds of seeds, like packets full of seeds from one radish. So if you see things going to flower and to seed, honestly, I would just leave them. You can harvest the seeds, the bees love it. So it's great having all these bees in my garden when my fruit trees are flowering, because that's going to give me better harvests. And let's take a quick look at the pond. So the pond is over here. It's not looking that amazing in the actual pond. It needs to get a little bit of a tidy up. It's dropped a lot of water with this hot weather, so I need to add some more water in here. But the fish are happy. 2 of them are looking very plump and like potentially going to have lots of fish babies, so that'll be interesting to see if I get, you know, more fish in here. Yeah, I'm hacking back this parsley a lot and using it to try and like stop it from overshadowing things, because it's just all growing really wild, which I love. Over here, more parsley, more pineapple sage. This one here is my lemon guava, or my cherry lemon guava. It's like a small yellow guava, and it's got all new growth and flowers, so that's exciting. And then this is the last garden bed. So this is my driveway patch. This is literally just on my driveway. I had leftover soil, and was my pumpkin patch, because it gives me heaps of room to let the pumpkins sprawl out. This dead looking tree here, it was be rehomed orange. So I got given this. It's not looking amazing, but I have high hopes. I mean, it looks like it's going to sprout some new leaves soon, so we'll see how that goes. Heaps of New Zealand spinach. I've been using this more as like a mulch, so I've been putting this around some of my fruit trees because it just grows so quickly and I can easily cut it back and add more organic matter back into the garden. I have planted a pumpkin in here. All of this is self-seeded radish. So again, I let a radish go to seed and I have hundreds of radishes popping up everywhere. I popped in some leftover brassicas so that I didn't have room for, so they are in here. Edible flowers, this humongous parsley. I just recently got a pink flowering rosemary, so I'm really excited about that. And because this is right next to my neighbour's yard, she also comes and uses the compost bin, so that's added material. And then she has access to all of the herbs and everything in my front garden as well. So we do a lot of trading with things like that, and she'll often bring me back cooked food, which, I mean, I'm all for. It's a great swap, fresh veggies for cooked meals. Onions, yeah. This garden's a little bit wild at the moment, but it's sort of bonus space. All right, so if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. But before you go, I just want to share a little bit of a sneak peek about what is happening in this grass patch here, because this is going to be my next project. So I'm going to do similar to what I have here, this row of trees. I'm going to do another 2 rows in here, but much smaller, so they'll only have 3 fruit trees, but they'll have heaps of supportive crops. And I'm going to do a lot differently to how I've done this row here. That's something I'm really excited to get started with. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already, and I'll see you back in another video.